Hi, everyone. This is Lisa Duprow from Elevate Coaching, and I help IT folks write resumes and LinkedIn's, and I do profiles like for side gigs, and I do that to help them gain the career clarity that they need. I wanted to do this video just to show kind of the process I go through to rewrite a resume. It's not complicated. I call it the bottoms up approach. It's something I do myself in my own style. And I just kind of talk about how it's about 10 or 15 minutes about how I work through evaluating a resume and then coming up with the working with the client to come up with um, kind of a little bit of a job plan and taking into account their career goals. How I do that, how it turns into the end product. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to share the old resume. Okay, so the story about this is this person is a IT manager in the application world, and they had worked for a mid-sized retailer, pretty well known, national brand, and were laid off, unfortunately, and got a little bit surprised. So, this resume on first glance looks pretty good, right? Um, it's neat and clean and easy to read, and notice the lines here are easy to read. But if you look a little deeper, it could be a lot better. And I'll explain how I do that and how we work together to do that. So this is Kyle, it's not his real name. First of all, I look at the top. Kyle does not need to be listing their personal address. It sometimes it works against you. So it's better to do like this. It ended up being Atlanta Metro instead of Atlanta, right? The person actually lives in Atlanta, but sometimes people live in small towns. You don't want to call attention to that. And also it can hurt their chances of having recruiters look and see how far they are from a job, right? It's up to the person to decide, whether they want to do 4 days, 5 days, or what do they want to go for those kind of jobs or not. So putting a more generic metro area helps a lot. This person has half small margins. They're a half inch. They're not bad. When you go too far in, you lose space and your resume gets too long. I see some white space here, kind of like a not the best use of space. And then if you go down, that's one, that's two. And I noticed the dreaded one line on the third page, which is just a resume writer's a nightmare. Mostly there's a whole resume page length thing. Whenever I work with new grads, sometimes it's a page, sometimes it's a page and a half. Whenever I work with anybody else, it's less than 2 pages. I've done CEOs and gotten under 2 pages. You just don't want to be crowded. You want to be readable because a lot of people don't have the greatest eyesight and they don't want to be squinting and they don't want to be looking at crazy fonts, right? So you want normal fonts, something a little more professional. Um, and he did a good job here with the formatting. The formatting, it's not about the content. So if you look at the content, it's not bad. He's done some work here. He's got some numbers, 15% improvement, 30% improvement. So he's done some numbers, which are what we try to recommend using the STAR method, which is situation, task, accomplishment, and result. So he's done that. And some of the resumes I see are big stories with lines and paragraphs of information. So what I usually do is we just look at this and talk about what's your goal. And we do have to have that career little talk usually, in my opinion. And I do that work for clients just to make sure they're focused, because it seems like most people today, it's hard to get a job. It's taking about 6 months and they're having a trouble the focus, right? What are they focused on? And if they're just applying to everything that's they're 80% um, qualified for, it could be wasting a lot of time. And the most important thing is, and this is I know there's so much suggestion out there. Mine is apply for what you're fully qualified for, because, getting those higher jobs is tough right now. And then work on that salary, right? Do that salary negotiation when you get there. the first thing is your resume needs to help you get in the door. So going down through this resume, and we're talking again, he wanted to go for a director type level, same job, Atlanta area. So we talk about all those goals, right? And we write them all down, right? And we just have all those goals. Do you want to work from home, not work from home? Will you travel? How far will you travel? What industry do you want to work in? Is it better to go into a different industry? Maybe this one's clogged up, right? So we talk about all that. It doesn't take long, no more than a meeting or so. And we do that before we start writing the resume. And then we review the resume and we look at the person's skills. And you can see and pull out lots and lots of skills here. It's not always just what's in the skill section. And also talking to the person, you can tell the skills. We also I take 3 or 5 target jobs. So once we figure out what that target job is, we will go find target jobs with salary ranges and responsibilities. And I take a look at the person's skills that they have, and they often don't know. They often have many more than they than they think they do. So I'm like the objective eye on this. And then I compare that to the skills in the target job, and then we look for gaps. And if it's a match, then we go forward and we're great. If it's gaps, we talk about that, we reassess, and then we decide what that target job is going to be. Sometimes those gaps are minimal and sometimes they're big and the person's being a little bit unreasonable about their career goals. So unfortunately, I'm the reality check. So we do that together, and I find that people really, really value that because we are putting together not just a target, but a plan, right? And I'm also doing, do you meet the target or not, right? Are you realistic? So we put a realistic kind of bend on it. So then, so going through this, I start. So this person has some skills, but I noticed that they were quite old. Here's RPG, here's freeform, right? Really old stuff, but good stuff over here. Agile methodologies, different kinds of methodologies for project management, some older skills. So we confirm all those things, and then we start, and then we're going to go to the next resume, but we start by working at the bottom and redoing these skills. And I'll show you on the other resume, because we want the skills to be connected to the target jobs. We want them to be summarized so that they don't have to change the resume every single time, but, summarized up at a higher level. And then to show the skills, this person is a manager level, excuse me. So we want the skills. We talk about, do we need tech skills or not? If you're a higher level, sometimes you want to work on strategy, right? This person needed to focus more on leadership, people skills, and interestingly enough, the person had mad people skills and did a great job there, but tech folks don't always write about it, and they don't know how to write about it. And we talk about the focus and the strategy of the resume itself. This person was going to focus on excellence, money saving, and people management and leadership, as well as the target job, the same area as a director of IT in the same area. And we also wanted to focus on those leadership skills at that person's level. And the higher you go, the less you talk about those tech skills. And sometimes you just leave them off. Then we're going to rewrite these. And what I do for this area is the way it's easy to get everything out of these accomplishment bullets is many of them do not have an accomplishment attached to them. It's very common. You want to read them, and if they belong in their own section as a responsibility, we move it. And I'll show about that in a minute. And then we want the top to reflect how recruiters read, and they read from the right to the left and down. And because of that, you want the top third to be the real estate, just like what they call in web development above the fold. What you see first is the top third, and you want it to show how this person is unique, what they've done, a summary of their abilities, and maybe throw in a quote. I mean, I understand ATSs, they don't like boxes, but what happens is the ATS ignores the boxes. So you want to be careful what you put in those boxes, but you can use them. The ATS won't reject the resume, it'll reject the box, which is a strategy in itself. And then you want that you want to kind of do the marketing plan, the focus, match the job, and kind of push the person's resume so that it fits the job in a lot better way, and fits them so that they would be looked at positively for an interview. So here's how we do that. And so I'm going to stop sharing. And then, oops, sorry about that. And now, oh, look where we are. We're going to do this. Okay, after. And I want to share. Okay. So sorry for all this rigmarole. Here we are. Okay. So here we branded the person as a global IT director because the person has global experience. That's a plus. The person did want to work in a multi-company environment. I went with a 3-pronged strategy, growth, and innovation. We added strategy because at that level, this person does do planning, and we want to show that capability. Growth because we want to show a company doesn't want to just take the money from this company as its operations. And innovation because in IT, we talked about it, and there is a need for this person to be able to show that they can work with AI, innovation, robotics, and those kind of things. So I start from the bottom again. I always start from the bottom. So I go to the bottom and we talk about technical capabilities. Now, as I said before, I've summarized these into skills, not at a detail level. I'm not saying Salesforce. I'm not saying Workday. I'm not saying I'm using HR applications that I know and different. So we want to say cloud computing. We don't have to say exactly what application because this person had 30 of them or 40 that they were managing. Can't do that. You want the resume to be reusable. So we did point of sale systems, right? Just summarizing. Product development, right? Azure is a style of moving code and applications through their change process. So we kind of summarized it. If this person applies for a job and there's a specific thing listed, add it. And that's what I'm saying. That takes about 15 minutes to modify when you apply. Then moving up, I'm going to go up to the latest job. And now that latest job has about 8 bullet points instead of 20. So a recruiter's not going to read that anyway. So what I do is, as I said before, all those bullets, we review them, we talk through them, and that's where my value is as a coach, right? We talk about what did you do? What projects did you work on? What initiatives? What do you do? How do you work with senior leadership? Have you ever done a project across multiple departments for cross collaboration? Do you project manage? If you project manage, have you come under budget? And we just talk and talk. And that is my role. And I understand a lot about different businesses and how businesses work. I do a little research and we talk through them. And then we get left with 5 or 8 really strong bullets. And we want those bullets to tie back to the responsibilities of the target job. So we'll have here's one on Agile. Here's coaching. The person loved doing that. Coaching, right? Here's financial management, financial systems, right? And to tie that all in, you want to make sure you do your star again, which is but you want to give context. So a lot of people say, have a bullet that they think is pretty good, and it's saved 50% of operating costs in 2018. Not enough information. Or they say, use the RPG methodology to save 50% on something. What is the RPG methodology? What did you do to give the business context? How did you save it? And why did you save it? And do that in 2 lines. So that's my superpower, is that I can write I can write those in 2 lines. And this is a good example, right? And this person saved money on support and improved the system and how long it was up, right? And I had to type out the whole thing, Oracle Financial Merchandise Planning, not ORMP, right? You want the recruiter to be able to understand your short-term jargon, write that out, and then add context and hopefully put numbers on it. But you don't always have numbers, and that's okay. But so we did that. And we got it down to 8 really solid bullets. And then this section is a summarized version of the responsibilities. Not all, I don't always do that. This is always helpful if the person had, because it's easy to summarize it in a very tightly written, close, just say the responsibilities, number of people, what they were responsible for, and just do it in a summary, and you won't waste tons of space on the resume. And then sometimes I add, if the person is at a managerial level, this person had budget responsibility, spending responsibility, and people responsibility. So I put that all in a short line. And if you look, we'll show this person had 9.3 in operating budget for the last job, and the previous job, they had 1.2. So we're showing increasing responsibility. Doesn't always mean your title, right? It's just increasing responsibility. And sometimes I will add a single line just describing the type of company it is and what it does and how big it is. Sometimes that helps too. Recruiters have said that it saves them a lot of work looking up a company, right? Because they want to know how big the company you work for. That's also often an important factor in getting an interview. And then for this, so I keep working up. That's my bottoms up methodology. And I went with this three-prong approach to the most important things this career, has done. And we put that here. It's extra, it's in a box. We want to make sure, if it doesn't, if you do a PDF of this and you hand it to somebody, it looks real nice and shows what you're focused on. It doesn't always have to come through, right? It can also be a PDF of a resume that will stand out if it's sitting in a stack of other resumes. And then I write a summary. And I do that last. I got to understand the person before I do that. And I'm really focused on the things that are important because we read right to left. The recruiter is going to read it. They're going to read this top third. So you want to say what their role and experience is, what they're skilled at, adept, detailed knowledge, and what they're enthusiastic about, and do it in like 5 lines. So you want to be as efficient as you can and kind of show the person what they can do. And the rest, the details will follow below and tie all together. And another important thing is now we know this person has a target job. I suggest people change their target jobs for the applications that they've put in. But now that with the old resume, you couldn't do that. You couldn't see what the person was going for. And I've seen recruiters say they look for this. From a design perspective, I use color, not very much. People love blue. I use light blue, dark blue. I've used orange, green, you name it. I've done it. But I do not use color a lot. Again, it can stand out in a pile, right? Because a lot of your information is going to be parsed into an ATS, and that's how that information will done. But you can always do the PDF. So you have your PDF, and this will show that you put together a strong resume. Is format everything? No, but it's meant to draw the eye. There's bolding, and these are the things you see first. There's highlighting. There can be gray space. And also I try to keep the eye so that there is space between sections and even bullets. Sometimes I use bolding. We don't use crazy fonts. I think this is Arial or Tahoma. It's very simple. It's just readable, right? It's readable. It's a little more fancy than your average resume. Again, it's more about the content. If I gave that old resume and put the same information in it, I'd still want to bold and make big, make letters bigger and stuff like that. It's about presenting the information in the best way you can. But content is king when it comes to a resume, as we all know. So that is, let me stop sharing. Okay, so I hoped you enjoyed it. It's just my style. Resume writers are all a little bit different. I have seen resumes that are 20 pages. I've gotten 20-page IT resumes that ramble on, but in that rambling and those paragraphs of information, there's usually a great story. Sometimes people can't write their own stories or don't know how to write their leadership skills or express themselves as well. And that's really common with IT. And I have worked with some amazing people that have done some amazing things. And you just want to get that in writing on the resume in the written format to be able to sell you the best you can. I offer 2 different kinds of services. One is resume feedback. So you would just get your original resume with comments on the sides. And those comments would be similar to what I talked about, and that is a low price, easy do-it-yourself kind of option. Then I have resume rewrites, which, oh, sorry about that. I have resume rewrites, which take longer, usually include that coaching where we talk about your target and your target job and your job search parameters and setting all that up and looking at your target jobs for skills. Like I talked about, takes 3 or 4 meetings. It's only me, and every client is different. So I tweak what I do for every single client to be personalized for them. The information, if you're interested to have a call with me, is at the end of this video. And thanks for checking out my resume process. Thanks a lot.